Today's tutorial I'm going to do in real time so you can follow along. And what I'm going to walk you through is using an image or a letter to create a monogram with a cutout so you can add different words to it. For the first example, I'm going to be using something that's pretty common right now. We've got a tree. I'm going to bring it from the Glowforge premium services. If you don't have an icon, maybe there's another image you want to use somewhere. But what I did here was I just typed in tree. And we're going to search the graphics. A lot of these are available on the Noun Project website. I went through, I found the tree that I thought was suitable, that I liked, and that's how I ended up with this one over here. So just pick any tree. You can have your own picture. I actually like this one too, so maybe let's see how that one turns out. Well, kind of looks more like an octopus. Let's see. Well, we'll take this one. Now if you highlight it, you can see that there's a lot of parts here that I don't really know what they are, but for now we're just gonna group it together. So Control G, group it all together, just to keep it in place. I don't know if it does anything when we export it, but we're gonna do that. We're gonna go here to Export Design, and you can see it downloaded to new design. So if we come over here to our Inkscape, we should be able to import. So go up to File, Import, and it'll be under Downloads. So we have New Design 1, which is that. It'll bring over all of the settings too. So all we have to do is ungroup it, which Control Shift G, if you look at your keyboard, Control Shift G at the same time, it'll ungroup this, and then we can just delete this. And now we have our tree here. Now I'm going to make it bigger so that you can see. I'm going to ungroup it again just to kind of see what we had going on in the interface. So I could see that this leaf wasn't part of it. I don't know where all the, these little bits here, we can probably delete those. I don't think we really need them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this leaf. So I'll unclick that. I'll unclick the main tree, and then I'm just going to hit delete on my keyboard just to make sure I got rid of all those little extra bits that are unnecessary. Another thing you could have done is unioned them all together. So now I have this leaf here that's just kind of floating around. We're going to move it so that it's actually touching. Okay, click the rest of the tree. You can come up here to Path Union, or you can hit Control++ on your keyboard. Either one will work, and now it's all one thing. I don't really like where that's at. I don't want little edges, so Control++ after hitting this on my tree. Okay, so now we have a tree. A lot of these door hangings that we see are set in circles. We can create a big circle. The maximum bed size on cut size on the basic would be 10.97. Okay, I'm gonna bring it down here. Maybe you can see it now. Center that on the tree. Okay, right now let's not pay attention to where it is on this or the size. We're gonna start with this circle. We're gonna duplicate it. To duplicate it, you're gonna hold down on your keyboard, Control D. Okay, it doesn't look like much change. It looks like this line got thicker, but it actually created a second circle right on top of the other one, which is what we really want, because we are going to adjust. You can see here, we'll adjust it. We're going to hold down Control, Shift, and then hold that down and grab one of these arrows here, and you can see now that we're resizing it, but it's based on the center of this other circle. So we'll adjust it to whatever size we want. Okay, if you see it's a little bit thin here, I like to keep my stroke size. If we come over to, let's see where we can find it. fill and stroke underneath object. If you have object up here, you're going to click on that, go to fill and stroke. When you do, it brings up a menu over here on the side. Fill and stroke, you have fill, stroke paint, stroke style. Okay, I like to keep mine in inches since I work in inches, and I'll do it at 0.005. It's just thick enough for me to see, but thin enough to where it doesn't interfere with the actual design when you're trying to figure out placement and stuff. Oops, I moved it. Okay, so just to make sure that these are aligned, and you can see that they are, we're going to take this center one here, and then we'll take this one, we'll click on them both, and we'll come up to path difference. Okay, so now this is all one piece. Okay, we'll take that tree, we're going to center it. When I do my centering, I like to have it right here relative to last selected. That way I can take whatever I want first, and then whatever I want to align it to, I'll click that next, and then align it like that. So this tree is pretty big, but it does fall almost within the circle. I'm going to redo this just so that the roots and everything will stay inside. Okay, let's move it up. Alright, so I think this is about where I want it. Now, we want something going across here, like a family name, and that is just going to require a rectangle. We'll take this rectangle. Okay, we want to make sure that it is within the circle. You can always adjust this later, but it's nice to keep it in the circle so there's less cleaning up to do later on. Okay, we will duplicate that rectangle. Now, when we do that, we're going to bring down the top edge, okay, and maybe the bottom, bring that up a little bit. Again, we'll click on that outer one. We're going to make sure that it's centered. That way, if you center it using this one right here, we know that this distance here and this distance here will be equal. Now, from the way that I do this, I'm going to take this center rectangle, I'm going to duplicate that. Control D, duplicate. I'm not going to click off of it. What I'm going to do is hold down Shift on my keyboard, click on my tree. This all works in layers. So this tree was here before this rectangle. So if I go up to Path Difference, I'm subtracting that section out of the tree. It will not work if this rectangle came before the tree or is on top or underneath the tree. It'll be something different. So when we do this, whatever we want to subtract out of needs to be lower than what we're taking out of it. So for example, I still have this one here. If I move this to the bottom and then I try to take the difference out of this rectangle here, now that this one is technically lower, it's only going to give me that little one. We don't want that. What we want is for whatever we're subtracting to be on top, so object raised to top, or whatever you're taking out of to be on the bottom. So I'm going to select these two, path difference. Okay, now we're left with these bars. At this point, like if this was too far out of the circle, you could adjust it by going to the node editor, clicking on it, selecting the nodes, and just moving the nodes backward, forward, using your arrow keys on your keyboard. We don't have that issue right now, but just in case, we're going to make sure these are exactly where we want them to be, because what we're going to do is we're going to union everything, and we don't want to have any gaps. So we'll take what we have here, click on the tree, and we will do Control++ or Path Union. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to click on this circle that we created and this object, Control++ or Union, and now we have this. Okay, this is our basis, like the base of our design right here. right now it's going to be an engrave. It's all filled. If you want it to be a cut, you come down here, you're going to hold down Shift, click on the color that you want for your stroke, and then we'll get rid of the fill. It looks like it got a little bit thicker than how I like it. Sometimes the default sets it to something else. So now you can see that all of this area is going to be cut out. We can clean up these little bits later, but for now that's what we have. To keep it easier, I'm just going to keep it as a fill so that we can see what we're doing. To add a name, we're going to come over here to the text tool, click on that, pick whatever text you like. I actually really like this Bodoni 72 small caps. It looks nice, it makes everything in caps. So if I was to write my name, you can see as a capital it's up here. So if we want everything to be the same, I can just not hold down Shift, not capitalize it. Okay. I want it centered with my circle, so I'll click my name and the circle, hit center. We're going to shrink it down so that it actually fits in between those bars here, and we can adjust any which way we want. We could pull it up like this to straighten, like lengthen or shorten it. You just want the tops of these letters, let's do it this way so you can see, the tops of these letters to touch the tops and bottoms of the rectangle that we created, this space. Okay. Now we need to make this text into an object. Right now we can't really do anything with it. We can edit what it says, but we can't combine it with the rest of our picture. And you can see here, if we go to zoom or view, display mode, outline, everything that's an object will have an outline here. This is not an object yet, it's still text. There's two ways to do this. You can go to path, object to path. Okay, now we have it here. Or I like to use the hotkeys on the keyboard, so it would be Control Shift. Let's make sure it's selected. Control Shift C. Okay, now this is now every letter in this is now a separate object, and it's all grouped together. So we have to ungroup it. Control Shift G, or up here, Object Ungroup. We can either keep it all separate and then adjust each letter accordingly, however we want it. We can union it together. It doesn't matter. However you like it. That's adjust your letters how you want them. You can union it. You can keep it all separate. In the end, it's all going to be union to this main shape right here. So just to go back to display mode, I have this. I unioned it all together. Not the tree, the letters. Unioned it all together. I want it centered. So I'm going to take my word in my shape here. I just selected both. To select both, you can click on one, hold down Shift, and then they're both selected once you click on the other one. Or if it's something simple, just drag over the whole thing. Click and drag. We're going to union. So I like hotkeys, but up here, path, union, and now it's all one piece. I didn't have it touching perfectly in there, so what I want to do now is undo that, or Control Z. I don't know what it is in Mac. I'm assuming it's Command. Just adjust it so that you don't have any random gaps. Okay, so now it's all together. Again, you can go into View, Display Mode, Outline, and you can see there aren't any extra gaps, there aren't any nodes. Now, to make it a cut, we're going to assign a stroke. Shift, and then click on the whatever color you want it to be. You're not going to see it much here because I have it set to 0.005. We can remove the fill, and you can see that all of this will be cut out. And that is how we do it with an image. Next, I will show you how to create a monogram using the same methods. I really like this font here called Winter Calligraphy. I'm going to make it as big as I can here. No stroke. And for my last name, we'll just do an M. Oh, I didn't do it. Winter Calligraphy. No, that's not it either. There we go. Okay. Inkscape has an issue sometimes with the text where it'll revert back to the one that you just had it at. So you can either start typing, click on a different spot, just go in and change it. So this is Winter Calligraphy and this is the M. Now, let's move this one off the page. We have our M here. This is still text, so we can see when we go into view mode, outline, that this is still a text. Okay. What we're going to do is Control-Shift-C, and this is now an object, or you can go up to here, Path, Object to Path. Again, you won't really be able to see any difference, you just have to trust that the hotkeys are working. So right now, we're in outline. Okay, again, I'm going to add it into a circle, or it could be a box, it could be anything. Let's do a rectangle or a square this time. Okay, I don't have a stroke assigned. Here we go. Stroke. We have it there. Okay, I can't really see it. Oh, no wonder I couldn't see it, it was too big. Again, we'll do maybe 10.5 this time. I'm going to put this right in the middle. Okay. It's a little bit, it changed. Okay. It's a little bit hanging out. Whatever you want to do. In this case, I'll make it a little bit bigger so that it covers my M. I'm going to hold down Control, duplicate to make this. There we go. Now you can do this a couple of different ways. You could do Control duplicate and you can drag it in. It's just going to drag it in everything equally from the center. I don't mind doing that. Sometimes you're going to get a funny shape, especially if you have a rectangle. Say this was a rectangle and you do Control duplicate and you're trying to bring it in. You can see here that this section is much thinner than this section. In that case, to keep it even, we are going to we're going to duplicate it, come up here to Path, and I like to use dynamic offset. Dynamic offset will give you this little diamond here that you can drag in, and it'll make sure that everything gets dragged in evenly. Now you can see that here and here are both equal, and it's doing it from the center of this rectangle, so it's all evenly spaced. The only issue is if you have something more curvy or intricate, it'll do all kinds of interesting things. For now, we'll keep it simple, and you can, once you get the size that you want, you can come up here and do Object to Path, and it creates that again. So that's just how you want to do it if you're using, say, a rectangle. But for now, we're over here. We've got our square. There's a couple of things that we can do different ways. I'll show you what I usually do or what I think is easiest. So we'll take this square and we'll do the difference. And so now we have one object here. Let me get rid of this rectangle so we don't have to see it. Okay. Now I have my M here, I want to put maybe a name going across. I'm going to make my rectangle same as we did the other one with the circles. We're going to center it. Center it against this, whoa, I jumped around a lot. Center it against this main square here. Bring it just a little bit on the inside so it doesn't hang over. Okay, we're going to duplicate that, and again, you can bring down the edges, you can offset it. I'd like to keep it to where the width is exactly the same. It just makes it a little bit easier. So once we have it, all we do is drag this around. Okay, and to align it to make sure this top and this bottom are the same, we'll hit Shift and click that, and right here, center on horizontal axis. Okay. Again, I am going to duplicate this inner circle. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating, or not inner circle, inner rectangle. I am creating another rectangle to subtract out of this. Because once we used it up, it's gone. So if I duplicate it right now, I'll be able to keep that same shape without having to make another rectangle. So what I mean is, we have this M. We don't want these parts here to be in the way of our text. If we're adding a name here, we don't want to have to see this M in the background. So now I have this rectangle selected. I'm going to hold Shift and click on the M, Path, and then Difference. Sometimes if it doesn't work, it's best to go into Node Editor right over here, this Edit Paths by Node, to make sure it's clicking. So clicked it again, clicked my M, Path, Difference. Now you can see that we cut out this, it no longer exists. I'm going to take this, this rectangle and this rectangle, and again I'm going to do Difference. Maybe it's easier if I put a fill so you can see, and then also with our main over here so you can see that. Okay, you can see here that this is sticking out a little too far. Alright, so now we have this rectangle with the cutout. We don't want to move it around too much. We're going to union it with this M. So Control plus plus. Something must be grouped here. Anyways, we'll use the node editing tool. Click on that. Control plus plus. Now these are unioned. It's all one piece. We'll also do it the same with this rectangle, or this square. We're going to click on our shape here and this. Control plus plus, or object or path union, and now it's all one piece. So we've got that. Oops. And now we're going to add our text. Let's see, what's the name that starts with M? We'll do Matthew. Instead of winter calligraphy, like I said, I'm going to go back to that small caps, so the Bodoni small caps. I don't want the M to be a different size. I'm going to center it. So click on this, click on my main object here, and we'll center it. But I want to make it bigger and I want to keep it centered, so I'm going to hold down Control, Shift, and then I'm going to drag. And then I still have all the space up here, so I'll just do this. Manipulate it however you want to make the letters look like how you want them. You could see if I do this, that how much it's overlapping the top and bottom. Okay, and then we need to turn these letters into an object, so Control Shift C, or up here, Object to Path. And then we need to ungroup them, so Control Shift G, or up here, Object Ungroup. Okay, now having all of these selected and where they are right now, we can click on whatever we want and Control++ or path union, and it's all one piece. And we can just assign a stroke, get rid of the fill, and you can see that this is what our cutout is going to look like. Another way to do this to make sure the lettering is completely centered on the rectangle is before you union your rectangle, and go back a million steps here. When it's still just this, we can also type in the way that we want it. So instead of doing the text last, we can do it as part of one of these steps. So we'll take our text and we'll, right here, center on vertical axis, center on horizontal axis. So you know that it's perfectly matched to this rectangle. Again, center it. We can turn this into an object first and then ungroup it. We can union that together, and then we can also go ahead and select everything and union the rest of it together. So we have this. I wonder what's preventing it. Let's see. Well, a safe way to do it, you can use your node editor to select everything you want to union. There we go. And you get the same results, but now you know that we're not just eyeballing this, it is centered to the rectangle that we created. And that is how to create a cutout from an object and adding a word. And once you cut this out, oops, stroke, all of these spaces in here will be cut out. If you wanted to, you could add a circle to hang a string or whatever you want to do. What I suggest doing now at this point though, even with this one here, whenever we put this into the laser, if our wood is not completely flat, the laser assigns whatever way it wants to cut if they're all the same color. So we're going to turn this one here into a cut. It'll assign everything in a way that hopefully it doesn't, it doesn't burn. Do it here so you can see. But what we want, if the wood isn't completely flat and it ends up cutting out this outer edge here, the inner piece is going to drop. And so whatever the alignment you had before, it could be off. So what I always do is I assign a different color for the outside and the inside. Well, how do you do it when it's all one piece? We're going to click on it, click on our objects here. We'll start with this one because it's simpler. And you can find it up here in Path, Break Apart, okay? Or Shift Control K. We're going to break it apart. It doesn't look like anything has changed when we do this, but well, let me see. Something's strange with this one anyways. Okay, so when we do break apart or Control Shift K, this is what happens. Every single one of these pieces is now separate. You can really tell beforehand, like say this is all together. If we only had a fill, a lot of people get freaked out about this when they do the break apart. It becomes all black. The way to do this is to unclick the outermost part by holding Shift. You're going to Shift and click to deselect that. We have all of this here. To bring it back together, we're going to hit Control K. All right, still nothing, right? We're going to click on the outer edge and remove that fill. That's the big thing. That's what's making it look funny. we're going to click on this, we're going to remove that fill. We want to assign all of these inner edges here. I've already combined them. Okay, a different color. I like to use dark blue, so you're going to hold Shift and click on whatever color you want to assign it a different one. And then when we bring it into our laser interface, group this together, we can say anything that's blue will cut first, anything that's red will be cut last. And so it helps with alignment because we're getting all the inner cuts taken care of first, and then if the wood is not fully flat or whatever, it's not going to drop until after this final cut. So all of the inside parts will be exactly where they need to be. We'll do the same thing for this one. To start off, we'll show you the mess. We'll do Control-Shift-K. We broke it all apart. Now you have this giant circle here with one color. We'll hit Shift, we'll click on the very outer edge. Now we're left with all of these. Control-K to combine it all together. Up here you also have it, instead of break apart, you have combine. Okay, we're gonna go back to this outer piece and remove the fill. And if you didn't have a fill to begin with, you're not going to see the giant blob. If it was just a stroke, it wouldn't look like that. Okay, we're going to go here, remove that fill also, and we're going to assign, hold Shift, click on another color, and now we've assigned another color to take care of that. We'll group it together so we don't accidentally move it. Okay, and then I'll show you what it looks like when you bring it into the interface. We're just going to hit it as, we'll just save over our original tree. Coming back to the interface, delete this. I'm already in here. I'm going to click on this plus sign to import. Click over here where it says upload, and I'll click on that as new design. Okay, so you see we have our tree, we have this. It won't really become solid unless it is perfectly, oh, see, I never adjusted this one to make it fit. But here we've got that, and if this was on here, let's see what our size is. It's 10.96, so it will somehow barely fit in here. Let's see if we can get it to work. Oh, I guess not. We'll have to make it a little bit smaller. 10.95. Okay. Now we have that. Over here, when I'm talking about inner and outer cuts, it'll highlight what we have. So this is the outer cut. You can see here it's a darker, or it's a brighter red. Keep that here, and then we'll have these parts cut first. If you wanted to switch it around, you just click and drag, but we want the outer cuts last, we want the inner cuts first. Okay, and that is how it's done.